Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. If you are just getting your notifications for the first time, well, that's probably either my fault or YouTube's fault because for some freaking reason, it was scheduled for Wednesday, which we know we don't do the Xbox Factor on unless, of course, it's a groundbreaking news that we do a special edition. So I don't know what the turnout's going to be like, but this week in particular is a joyous and a triumphant week for not only me personally, because today is Mrs. Boomstick's birthday.
Happy birthday!
Thank you. And originally I was going to cancel the show, and she was like, "I don't want no part of that." So people expect the show. Right. Please go do the show. So here we are. So shout out to Mrs. Boom. She had a nice breakfast that I cooked. She's getting dinner from her favorite restaurant tonight. And, of course, we've been hanging out all day, and we'll be hanging out after the show, watching movies, hanging out, whatever. But the other thing that I want to just put out there for everyone is we are going to be having Mrs. Boom's birthday bash this Friday. It's something that is new to Double Barrel Gaming on her request. Mm-hmm. And we're giving away on Friday morning $300 worth of digital gift cards, six $50 gift cards, and the first three winners, of course, are going to be channel members. The next three winners are going to be anyone that is in the chat, the live chat on Friday morning. And besides having the birthday bash on Friday morning for Mrs. Boom, the channel will be celebrating its 1,000th video since we started in November of 2017. This week, the channel will officially turn 5 years old. Like I said, there's a lot to get excited about. The fact that we are still around and we are supported by as many amazing people as we are. Is obviously we are incredibly humbled by that, and we are happy that we can provide the content that you enjoy weekly. And obviously, just recently, we have now turned the channel into full-time streaming, 5 days a week, at Monday through Friday, new shows, new panels, different topics. But listen, I want to welcome in Justin Sayin. He is making his appearance for the first time on Double Barrel Gaming. Justin, welcome to the program, brother. We've been talking in the background. It's great to finally have you on the show.
Oh yeah, Boom. Thanks for having me. And 1,000 shows, I mean, that's incredible. I mean, that shows some extreme fortitude.
Thank you, sir.
And your community has been extremely welcoming to me. Extremely nice people. I really didn't expect it. I spent most of my young adult life in the military, and
nice.
Always kind of had that silent professional program going. So I never really talked to the public or anything. It's really cool to see all the support and people coming out for it.
Oh, yeah. Well, listen, thank you for your service, brother. Definitely appreciate that. We don't normally get that. A lot of people forget that it's a lot of sacrifice that goes into serving the public, either through the military or first responder. So thank you so much for that. And it's great to have you here. Steel Rain, you're a guest here, brother. You got the keys to the kingdom, brother. Welcome. It is great to have you a part. We have some real hefty topics to get into. One of which is going to include Fable, and a big change that came the way of an Sony developer that just finished his work on Horizon Forbidden West. I think I don't know where this game gets pushed to. Is it 2024? Is it 2025? What is he going to do? But how are you, man?
Look, Boom, man. I just want to thank you again for welcoming the rain into your Xbox Factor kingdom. And like you said, man, I pretty much got the keys to the kingdom, man. I was in town, figured they said, hey, Boom, let me get a room. You let me sleep in. I woke up on time, and I think I'm here and ready, man. You got some amazing topics for us here. A lot of beautiful things that have been talked about over the last few weeks have kind of collided and going to lead into some topics we're getting into today. So I'm excited. I'm pumped. Justin, man, glad to have you here. If this is your first time ever podcasting, hey, you're in for a wicked ride, man. It's nothing, man. Just relax, be yourself, and like you were talking about with the community, there is a very toxic side to it, just like with anything else. people will be people, but for the most part, just like if you're locked in with Boom or anybody else that's in this knit, you're definitely around good people. So
oh yeah, I know I turn my blinders on, man.
There you go.
Well, yeah, shout out to you for being here. Definitely appreciate that. And also want to shout out Gerald Mack in the chat. Gerald, you got to reach out to me, brother. You were one of the winners yesterday of the $50 gift card. I'm assuming it's going to be for Xbox, but I don't want to make that assumption without hearing from you. Reach out to me on DM or, of course, on Xbox Live, and we will get you those that $50 gift card today. And also a shout out to the other winners, of course. That was General Spartan, Super Duper Man, and Elemental PO. Everyone has been notified, and as soon as this show is done, I'll be heading out to get those gift cards. For some reason, I couldn't buy them on GameStop.com. It's the craziest thing. So that's why there was a little bit of a holdup, but I will get you those codes today. And Gerald, like I said, brother, congratulations, and thank you for all the outstanding support. N64 Josh with the classic Zelda shirt. What's going on, brother? How are you?
Wait, I'm muted. There we go.
There you go.
I was like, come on, mouse, get to the button. I'm so good. So glad.
That was my biggest fear starting out.
Yeah, I knew it was there. I'm like, I just couldn't. I was moving my mouse too quickly. I'm like, come on, hit the button. There we go. So glad to be here. What an interesting week in Xbox land. It's going to be a very fun show, and we got an incredible panel here. Very excited.
Oh yeah, brother. Thank you so much, and it's great to have you here. Again, we do have a lot of really stout Xbox topics, and man, I mean, talk about the news just continues to just be like a breaking dam. It's more news than we know what to do with or have the time to talk about. Daniel McGee, what's going on, brother? I hope I didn't mess you up by having the date for the show on a Wednesday instead of Tuesday. I don't know what the heck happened. What's going on, brother?
I almost missed where I was late to the show because I had a long Halloween.
So there you go. Yeah.
Barely got up on time.
I like that. I
made it. And I'm really excited for this show. I think it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, we do have a lot to get into. And, folks, let's open up immediately with the hot topic of the show. And that, of course, is the information that was provided by several people out there, specifically Idle Sloth. He put this out there like he always does. He's one of the community good guys that I go to for Xbox news or pretty much any kind of gaming news. He puts it out there. And Andrew Walsh, who is an award-winning writer, director, narrative designer, and he's a former employee of Guerrilla Games. His last game that he worked on was, and this is what's pretty interesting. Not only did he work on Horizon Forbidden West, which of course launched earlier this year, but he also has worked on Horizon Call of the Mountain, which is launching for the PlayStation VR 2.0 early next year. Well, guess what, folks? He has joined the team at Playground Games, and this is a big deal. Listen, you know what? We heard earlier this year from Matt Booty, where he sat down for an interview during Gamescom, and he talked about how he wanted to show Fable. And the team at Playground literally told him, no, we're not ready to show. When we are ready, we will let you know. And I think that is that's big of the team that wants to. Apparently, if you remember many years ago, Steele, and I'm going to go to you first. That quote from Playground Games, they said they wanted to be the best developer in the world.
Right.
And this is obviously, this was at the announcement of Fable. We know what they bring to the table with Horizon. Horizon 5 is a best-selling. It has almost 30 million players. It is one of the best racers I've played since Burnout 3. And listen, what could you say about their pedigree? But hearing that they have now someone from the team at Guerrilla Games, which, like I said, look, I know there's a lot of people that really don't care so much for Aloy and the Forbidden IP. I happen to think it's one of my personal favorite new IPs from Sony.
Mhm.
I didn't care as much for the second, simply because it was riddled with bugs, and I
Okay.
had a couple of hour-long playthroughs that I lost. That had to start from the beginning because of save bugs, and I
Mhm.
kind of lost my steam with it. But I take nothing away of how gorgeous that game is. That game's open world is breathtaking to watch,
Right.
especially if you just sit at the top, perched on a tree or something, and you just watch the dinosaurs move on their own.
Right.
It's just incredible to know that kind of talent
Mhm.
coming from Andrew Walsh, which again I have to reiterate, Steele is an award winner, writer, director, and narrative designer.
Mhm.
Coming to Fable, it's a big deal, but how big of a deal?
It's definitely a big deal, like you said, Boom. And I mean, I was just kind of going through his history of different games that he's made and everything. I think it's a major deal because we definitely know that Microsoft wants Fable to hit, right? Fable to a lot of people is going to be an IP that they're not going to be familiar with. And to us, we want the new iteration of the IP that we kind of held near and dear to our hearts. Those who've played Fable since the beginning, we want something that's going to be a complete product, tell a good story, be very bring about a lot of depth also. Because that's one of the things that I always took away, at least from my playthroughs of Fable 2 and 3, is that just that they're kind of the third. Fable is like that third person IP, kind of doing something similar to what Bethesda was doing, right, with Lion's Head at the time, where they gave you a lot of choice, was playing with good and evil, also throwing other magical elements in there, and then also when they started throwing in the elements of co-op, that made it extremely interesting. So there's just so much that's riding on this game doing well and them taking a lot of time to work on it, especially for Playground too, right? Because this is going to be one of those things to say, hey, well, can you only make car games? What else can you do? And this is going to be their prime time to, no pun intended, but to prove that sure, they could put together a realistic looking world in a car game, which isn't generally the focus, but you do see that they did really well with that, and they wowed us on stage when they presented Forza Horizon 5, originally, and then to now know that these are going to be the people that are going to take on the mantle of Fable, and also knowing that they want to do it in its best light because they've come out and said, hey, we want to make sure that you get the humor, you get the light and the dark, you get all the different elements that you really get like and enjoy out of a Fable game, and bring those to light. So for him to come over, and again, you're talking about a guy that's worked on games from anything back in the day, from Earthworm Jim, which is something that easy, Heavenly Sword. He's worked on Halo 3, some Harry Potter games, Prince of Persia, some Need for Speed, The Division 2, Shadow of War, Middle of Earth, and then Horizon Forbidden West, like you mentioned, Call the Mountain. There's definitely a huge pedigree there for as far as storytelling goes, and I think that's the perfect thing that Playground may need to come in. And I don't think it's anything to be worried about necessarily. He may just be coming to make sure that everything is going in the right direction per se, right? So I don't know. That's kind of my sights on it right now.
I mean, listen, it's a good hire. It's a good hire. Listen, I want to bring in Justin for a second. Justin, I pulled an article, and again, remember, I originally pulled the story from something that was posted by Idle Sloth. So I want to give him proper credit, but to get a little bit more background on who Walsh is, Andrew Walsh. I don't know. I shouldn't call him by his last name. I pulled an article from Eurogamer that was posted the same day. And what's interesting is his writing career has spanned everything from Division 2 to Prince of Persia, but he's also worked on UK TV shows. Mm-hmm. Here is Justin. This is actually what Andrew Walsh had to say on Twitter regarding this announcement. He goes, "So Albion has beckoned once again. I'm delighted to announce that I have had the chance to join the wonderful team at Playground working on the new Fable. So my question is, knowing someone that has a storied history like this isn't a Johnny come lately. This guy's been around the industry for many, many years. He has worked on games, from back in the days, midway through generations. But more importantly, and I think this is where we really put the pin in this conversation, is the fact that he just finished work on 2 Horizon games, one of which is out and one is coming. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, I think they're putting together a really amazing team over there, because if you think about game development, you have different parts that go into it. And, you're looking at Forza. It's a beautiful game. And as you're developing it, your character can be a car. It just has different mechanics. So you already have a beautiful world. They know the mechanics. You're getting a rider in there. It's really kind of the cherry on top. It's going to make a really complete game, in my opinion, because you're going to have the Forza team working on everything else, but you have a writer that's going to bring that beautiful world to life. And I'm a chicken chaser at heart, so I'm really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, a lot of people are concerned, Justin, on what they're going to do. See, I'm in the camp that I kind of want something new. I want them to I want them to have an appreciation for the chicken chasing or the chicken kicking. I don't know if I want to be farting in anyone's face, to be honest with you, kind of like you did with the original one. But I'm hoping for real life graphics. What about you?
I hope it is a little cartoonish, because that kind of thing stands the test of time. Realistic graphics only look realistic until the more realistic game comes out. But you look at a game like World of Warcraft, it's lasted years off the same graphics, same engine.
Yeah.
And they haven't updated a thing. So I don't think realistic graphics might be the right answer for this. But, really it is an artistic choice on it. And we're going to have to see more of where the team goes with it.
Nice. All right. Listen, you know what, Josh, N64 Josh, let's get your opinion on this information with Andrew Walsh. Where do you fall in hearing this big time writer is joining the team?
I think it's fantastic. Like the more the merrier, right? Like, and especially with the pedigree like this, like this is gonna be great. And it does probably speak to the fact that the game may not be as far along as maybe we were hoping, but maybe this isn't going to be a one and done game. Maybe this is a game that's going to run more like Destiny over the years, and it's going to be kind of games as a service esque. So we'll see. We'll see. But I'm looking forward to it, and excited to see somebody with this caliber jumping on.
Yeah, with how 2 and 3 did on the original Fable, I don't see this being a one and done at all. I definitely agree with you on that.
Yeah, this is definitely them reimagining the IP in total, right? I think they've touched on that quite some time. And again, I mean, you definitely have to pull attention to something that people have been away from for a long time. That's why I've kind of been on the springboard of saying like, hey, why don't you go back and we get a remaster or a remake of those original 3 games? But again, just like, hey, well, we're kind of doing that, right? So.
Yeah, people forget how big Fable was. I mean, it is a flagship title for Xbox.
Major game. Oh, what
I think Boom stepped away.
Yeah. Sorry about that, brother. I had to step away. Someone rang the door. Unfortunately, I don't have a studio. I pulled a Greg Miller here. But listen, good stuff as always, Josh. Let's get Daniel involved. Daniel, look, the one thing that I take away from Playground Games making a Fable is something very similar to what happened with Guerrilla Games. Now, Guerrilla Games for years, I would even say as long as a decade, was known as a first-person shooter game maker. Obviously, Killzone, depending on who you ask, some people love it. Me and I was walked away very unimpressed. I thought the first one was okay. supposed to be the Halo killer. Turned out to be not that great of a game. But when they released Horizon Zero Dawn, they did something. I think what Guerrilla Games did is put their stamp of their studio on the world, saying, hey, listen, we were known for these mediocre first-person shooters that a lot of people didn't like, that a lot of people didn't play, but we have this new open world game. And when it was shown for the first time, people were blown away. I have a strong suspicion we're going to get something very similar to happen for the team over at Playground Games. I think we're going to be very, very impressed. And I gotta say, I love the tenacity about telling someone who's the head of Xbox, right? Xbox Game Studios, and Matt Booty, hey, listen, you want to show it, we don't want to show it. We don't feel comfortable showing it. Where do you personally feel that the addition of Andrew Walsh, what is that going to actually do for this game?
Well, I think it'll do a couple of things. You're right. I think that this transition from Playground doing just racing games into doing also these RPGs is going to be sort of a jump similar to what Guerrilla Games did. So if this is an employee who's been there for a while, which I haven't looked into his history, but it seems like he's been there for at least the duration of the Horizon series, which is that's going to be confusing for conversation because it's Horizon and Forza Horizon, but yeah, we'll see. If he's at least been there for that duration, then he's seen that jump happen, right? Mm-hmm. So he has some experience that he can bring to the table. And, you know, it is that thing where, I mean, let's remember that before Horizon Zero Dawn came out, Guerrilla Games was kind of in hot water because the last game they had put out before that was Killzone Shadowfall? Was that
Shadowfall, yeah, that launched with the PlayStation 4 was not good.
Yeah. Well, not only was it not a particularly good game, but it actually ended up in that lawsuit, if you remember, because the trailer that they showed for it was a complete bullshot from start to finish. So they actually ended up having to settle outside of court to pay off people for like false advertising, effectively. It was a problem, right? And Guerrilla really came back from that, right? They put out Forbidden West, and you know, I know there's a lot of people who didn't like it. I thought it was pretty good, especially in terms of the writing. I think that there's slightly more questionable writing in the second game, specifically with the ending. I won't spoil it, but I think the ending of Forbidden West has some interesting choices.
My brother said the same thing. Yeah,
it's very, very strange the direction that it looks like they're going with the sequel or the third one. But there's no denying that the writing in those games is really good, and good writers is something that we know Playground needs. Yes, Playground is a very talented studio. They do extremely photorealistic racing games. They have great mechanics for those games, but let's be honest, the Forza Horizon games have not exactly had or needed particularly amazing writing, right? So bringing on people who have that talent, especially from a major PlayStation first-party studio who has been lauded for having great writing, that's a big deal. Like, that's a really good hire for them. And although it may be kind of a weird thing to point out, it's good that Andrew Walsh is also, and he's English, right? He's yes. I feel like English writers are sort of important for Fable, just because I feel like that's such a big part of the identity of that brand.
I agree with that.
Where it fits that sort of humor and that sort of tone. I don't know what caused them to write that way. Maybe it's because they haven't seen the sun in a while. I hear England is a very gray place, but I think that he's going to be a very useful asset to Playground Games. The question that's been brought up alongside it is, does this mean that the Fable is, not as far along as we would have hoped for, being that he seems to have been
that's the question. You kind of wonder. First of all, I would rather them take their time. I've always thought that this game was going to come out 2024, potentially early 2025. I know that's a long time, and a lot of people are like, "Oh man, I'm disappointed."
We do. I do. There are some sources behind the scenes that I can't let's say or verify anything, but I can't say that it is seemingly on track. We haven't heard anything otherwise.
Okay, all right.
There are a lot of things you can do to prepare while not having a writer. And do we know did they make the job for this guy, or has this job been open and this guy just became available? Because I mean,
that's
if you've been
too, I don't think it's specified.
Yeah,
the
Idle Sloth or Eurogamer didn't specify that this particular position was made specifically for him, to take over writing duties. They didn't suggest that someone else, left because of not being able to do it. So at this point, it's really speculative.
Because they can work on a lot of the block mesh, they can get character shaders done. There's a lot that they can do to prep, especially if they know who the writer is coming in that they're going to get. They can set themselves up for success with that. And a big company like Microsoft, I kind of see them doing that.
It's possible. Yeah, it's definitely possible. I mean, I'm assuming we'll find out soon enough, exactly is he taking over full-on writing duties. Maybe they had a plan and it just wasn't panning out and they wanted to change directions. Games that are in pre-production the way this game is, I would imagine that it's going to see several changes of direction, and we won't know until someone actually leaks it or they actually decide to talk about it.
That's entirely probable, right? If this game is further out than we think it is, and it's maybe still like 3 years off, then I could see him having dramatic input on the core story of that game. If it's coming out in 2024, 2023 even, I've heard some rumors of that, but that one feels unlikely.
Yeah.
If it's coming out 2024, 2025, he would probably still be able to get a lot of work done, assuming he's starting today. I don't know if this announcement is like his day one or if it's his announcement that he's going to start there in the near future. Right. But so the timing on it is questionable. He may just end up doing, for this first project at least, some of the side content or like DLC or something like that, and then take over a more important role in a sequel or whatever they do after this. It doesn't seem like he's going to be necessarily, the only writer there. So it's very likely that they're going to be able to have already had a vision for this game and are working towards it. And he'll just, come in and maybe be like a second set of eyes on it and be like, are you sure you want to do that? Maybe take out some of the fart jokes. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I'm getting from it, honestly, because it's like, from what I understand from it, it's kind of like more of like a Joseph Staten kind of situation where you're coming in on the back end, things might be wrapped up, but maybe they tapped him on the shoulder, was like, hey, what do you think about this? And maybe he got wrapped up in the story. He was like, oh, is this what you guys are doing? What else do you guys have? And maybe they planned out second, third, whoever knows, many games out. And he's like, you know what? I think I have the perfect direction for this. They got into a meeting and everybody was of the same mindset. I mean, again, the game has been in development already. So this isn't like, oh, the idea is just starting. We need a writer. We need to put the story together. No, the game is in, like, if not halfway, 3/4 of the way of development, getting ready to come out. Even if it's 24, 25, that's still only a couple years away. You're not rewriting the entire story. So I just think it's probably more of that kind of a situation. Like I see a Joseph Staten coming in, making sure everything is streamlined, and making sure they're hitting the marks that we're wanting to hit, I guess.
Yeah, and just the last thing that I wanted to say about it is it's entirely likely that they wanted to have him from the beginning of production of the game, that could be, but that they just couldn't get the timetables working together. Right. Like you said, he worked on Call of the Mountain, and that game's not out yet. They may have just recently finished up all the writing on that. Mm-hmm. So it's entirely possible that he was like, yes, I really want to work for Playground, but I'm in the middle of this project and I want to finish it first. You know what I mean? Exactly. Or maybe he was contracted in such a way that he had to finish that project first. There's any number of things that could have led to it.
Very little knowns and a lot of unknowns.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So it's impossible to say, based on this hiring, how far along Fable is or what this says about Fable as a game in general. All I can say with 100% confidence is that this is definitely a positive thing for that studio going forward.
Yeah. I agree. Listen,
and really, Xbox as a whole.
Yeah, no, it absolutely no. To get this kind of talent, it is a big deal. I just can't wait to see the fruits of his labor when this game launches, whenever it in fact launches. Infinite Umbra, what's up, brother? Welcome back, man. How you feeling?
Oh, hey, Boom. What's up, guys? Good morning, everybody, or afternoon, I guess now at this point. I'm doing much better, man. I'm doing much better. How are you all? Happy birthday, by the way, to the missus.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, you know what? I just want to say a big thank you to everyone. I'll get to the super chats momentarily with all the birthday wishes. Yep, Mrs. BoomStick, birthday today, and we're gonna enjoy the rest of the day. She's gonna have a nice birthday week. But listen, Umbra, this is an intro. You've had a lot to say about Fable, not only on this program, but on, of course, the Xbox Infinite podcast that you're on Friday evenings. But you know, Andrew, and of course, I'm talking about the gentleman that was just hired. That's Andrew Walsh. He has worked on some very interesting games. I have his whole rap sheet in front of me, so to speak. He worked on Watch Dogs Legions, Division 2, Shadow of War. He worked going all the way back. He worked on Halo 3, which is he has this kind of SOCOM, Prince of Persia. But this is the one that's interesting, Umbra. He worked on the canceled Fable Legends. Yep. And that now it makes sense when he says Albion is calling once again. That's because he has a history with the franchise. He worked on it, and according to his bio, he was the lead writer, speech and narrative designer, voice director, speech production at Lionhead during Fable Legends, unfortunate production, and then ultimately its demise. For you, seeing how important Fable is. Now, Fable, if you ask someone like Cognito from the Iron Laws podcast, my brother, and of course he's recovering from eye surgery, everything went well. Shout out to him. I'm glad that everything worked out. Talked to him yesterday, right after surgery, as a matter of fact. So he is doing good. He has been asking for Umbra the hashtag just one. And what does he mean? Well, even Phil Spencer, and we're not talking about it specifically today. We're going to be talking about it with Jesse Norris of the Xbox Era podcast. Phil has recognized publicly that the first party output hasn't been as good as it should with the kind of studios and talent they have. Fable is one of those games. It is a monster franchise for Xbox gamers. The trilogy, depending on where you put 1, 2, and 3 in your own personal order, is great Xbox history. This game has to hit. I mean, it has to punch you in the face when this game comes out. For hearing that Andrew Walsh has joined the development of Fable, where does your confidence level either go up or go down?
I'm of two minds of this, Boom. So after hearing the whole rap sheet, as you put it, hearing that, it's like, man, this dude is a vet. Mm-hmm. This guy is an award-winning vet, by the way. So the man knows what he's doing. There's no question there. Now the problem comes. Horizon wasn't that great story-wise. So, or at least to some. So is that going to leach into Fable? But then I thought about it and say, they're so far into development, at least at this point. No. I don't think he's shifting anything story-wise.
Right.
So it can only be a positive. He's a veteran. He got all those games on his list of what he's accomplished and done. Award-winning. He did Halo 3, which is my favorite Halo of all time. And he's coming back to Fable now. So you can, pun intended, he's finishing the fight, so to speak, right here. So I'm all for it, man. I think it's a smart move by them to get such a great, veteran like that on board. But it does also, though, extend that weight, because now we know the game is nowhere near. At this point, if you're bringing him in for this, I can't see it being 2024, at least not early 2024. It has to be late, I'm guessing now, for such a thing. And we keep seeing that. We keep seeing them bringing in people for roles. We're like, you just brought this person in for this? Oh, wait a minute. Okay. No, so we got to move our calculations, And I'm the optimist, so I'm almost always like, yeah, they're gonna have this out early. Oh no, we'll get this by 2023. Nope. So I don't know. I feel like I'm hoping still that by next year E3 we'll see something from Fable to see how it looks.
Some actual gameplay.
Exactly, and we can go from there. But now hearing this and I continuously seeing who they're bringing in, because they're building as they're making the game. I guess it's a tough thing for that too. It makes me feel like the game isn't quite there to that point of production where it's going to be ready until I would say late 2024, if not early 2025 or mid 2025. So it's a gift and a curse, I suppose, in a way. But I am excited as far as them bringing in quality devs. That should always be something that all of us, smile on.
Yeah.
As far as this is concerned, it's in good hands. So, much credit to them in that regard. So I'm excited to see what happens, man. I just want to see something. Just give me something.
Well, I think what will work ultimately in Microsoft's favor, especially with a game like Fable, is they have so many games coming out before it that 2023 already seems like potentially. And again, this is not just I don't want to put the lens just on Xbox on this. What my next comment. 2007 is revered as one of the best, literally the best year in gaming history, and I don't think there's anything that's come close. It had so many great games, so many classic franchises, so many unbelievable new and revived IP that it has not had a challenge as of yet. Well, 2023 for Xbox looks ridiculous, but it also looks ridiculous for Switch, and also looks potentially ridiculous for PlayStation. So we're going to be eating good next year. But specifically on the Xbox point of view, they have so many games coming out that they may have to at some point push a few games into 2024. If they in fact have to do that, because you obviously don't want to oversaturate your own service. You want people to play the games. This gives the team at Playground some breathing room. They don't have to make a 2024 holiday. They can just continue to design, bring in new people, continue to build this game, and when it releases, let it release like we are all expecting it to be, a AAA, high caliber, story-driven, graphics to drool over kind of a game. And I think they will deliver that. And I think that with Microsoft having as many teams as they currently have, even without the ABK deal that's expected to be finalized early next year, they have more than enough games to allow for development. Let's say, for instance, they're having some development difficulties in direction, or if they want to add one or two, one fart joke or 10. I don't design games, so I don't know, but I know that it behooves the team not to be pressured to hit a date and to deliver a game. Again, this is an important franchise. This is a big deal. This is basically the reimagining of a classic franchise. They have to hit. They have to hit.
The problem, like you said, Boom, is the fact that we haven't had any other major AAA games.
Yep.
Like James said inside of the chat, he said, man, if only they had gone on this spending spree earlier. It's like so many what ifs when it comes to Microsoft right now. If they can hit and actually get other games to drop off, we'll kind of forget for Fable, give them a little leeway at that point. But if we're not getting anything,
at some point they're going to have to update us by showing us something. I for one am willing to allow for the team to decide that. I'm not one of these gamers that feel entitled that I have to see what I want when I want it, and tough for everyone else. No, show it when you feel confident that you can show it, and until then, we're just gonna have to go based on what information comes the way of potentially leaked information, which you can't really trust, but until Playground Games themselves decide to talk about it.
Right, and something important to keep in mind for everyone who's waiting for it and feeling like this game has been in development for such a long time, is that the reason it feels like that is because it leaked from pretty much the second it was starting development. Remember, I mean, people were talking about a new Fable game being made by Playground Games before they even started building the new studio to make it, right?
I mean,
so
people were looking forward to it right when Fable 3 was released, so it's been in the back of everybody's mind since then.
And like, did they maybe announce it too early? Probably with that trailer, but at the same time, it's like if everyone already knows about it, you may as well just come out and say that it exists so that you can hire people specifically for it. And be
I think that was the purpose of it too, though, right? Is that teaser trailer to put it out there like, hey, all the rumors are true. We finally got the script right.
You got Fable over here. You might want to come back over now.
One thing about Fable, though, they have to hit. Because this is the type of game people will take it personal if they don't do right by Fable.
No, I mean
we had it comparing it being compared to sort of the trajectory that Guerrilla Games went on, where they were making one franchise or one genre and completely switched to something different. But I think that this is probably going to be more similar to what happened with like God of War, maybe not to that level of quality, but it's that. You know, they're taking this old beloved franchise and they're modernizing it and probably making it a bit more serious. I don't think that a Fable game exactly how the old ones were launched today would necessarily.
It was kind of a Monty Python
would want
style humor.
Yeah, and like kids don't know what Monty Python is anymore.
Exactly. So they probably wouldn't find it funny even if they did.
Like, what is that?
It's just a flesh wound, damn it.
And like I'm sure that like all the people in the chat and like most of us would have been perfectly fine with a Fable game that was exactly the same, just like we would have been fine with a God of War game that was pretty much exactly the same.
But you got to modernize.
But you got to modernize it, right? And I feel like
you aren't looking for just fine though.
Yeah. And I think that if they do turn Fable into more of like a widespread, open world type game that has these choices and consequences, and maybe takes itself just a little bit more seriously. Not even to the point of like, I feel like that'll perform a lot better, especially with critics. And so I think that that's probably the direction that they're going to end up going, just based on what little we know. I like your
thoughts on that, Danny. I will say though, I have lofty ideas. Like me, when I look at them, Fable it should have been a flagship thing, much like Gears, much like Halo is to me. It should have been, right? And it could have, and it should have, in my opinion. I expect them fully to deliver some type of God of War 2018 experience. I don't expect it to be like game of the year. I expect it to be great though, and I think they're going to deliver in that regard. Honestly, I really do. I think Playground has shown their pedigree time and time again. I expect us to get probably a 90+ Metacritic rated Fable by the time they finish. Personally,
I honestly do think it's a failure if you don't get above an 85 on it because of how long it's had and the team that you're bringing on and the money you're spending on this game.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, I'm sure that they know we have lofty goals, and I'm sure that they have internal lofty goals. There's no doubt about it. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, what a way to open up the show. We're near 400 people here in the live chat. I want to say a big thank you to everyone that has wished Mrs. Boomstick a happy birthday. Let me catch up on super chats, and we will get to some breaking news. Sony's numbers not looking so good. This comes the way of Tom Warren, beat writer for TheVerge.com. He put out their numbers. Now their numbers aren't devastatingly low, but they are down in everything. We'll break those numbers down momentarily because people are asking in the chat. And I thought that, well, if you're asking for it and we have the numbers here, why not discuss it? The first comment of the day comes the way of Thanos, who's been a member, my goodness, for 38 months, a channel member. Thank you so much for that. He says, good morning, good afternoon. Well, good morning to you, afternoon as well. Thank you for being here. Andrew Soos drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, bravo. Thank you so much for that. Sith Lord, who's been a member for 6 months, drops a $2 super chat and says, happy birthday, Mrs. Boom. Hope it's a good one. Thank you so much for that. Gerald Mack, who's been a member of the channel for 1 year and is one of the $50 winners from yesterday's Halloween special giveaway. He drops a $5 super chat and says, shout out to Double Barrel Gaming. Salute to Mrs. Boom and the panel. Welcome to the community. Justin saying salute. Thank you so much for that. Drawn TJ, generous friend of the program, drops a $2 super chat and says, hi guys, I hope Fable is realistic. Yep, that makes two of us. And Drawn TJ drops an additional $5 super chat and says, Xbox has two, just ones, Fable and Hellblade 2 indeed. And I think they actually have more than that. Shout out to Jay the Destroyer, a good friend of mine, and thank you for the birthday wishes there, Mr. Destroyer. But listen, I want to talk about these numbers, and I have what Tom Warren tweeted only a couple of hours ago, and he says this is Sony PlayStation's Q2 earnings, folks, they only sold 3.3 million PlayStation 5 sales, and that's flat year over year. They have a total of 45.4 million PlayStation Plus subscribers. That's down 4%. They have 62.5 million in software sales. That's down 18%, and that's a lot considering that they have had 3 first-party quote-unquote bangers released this year, and God of War right around the corner. In fact, God of War is releasing, I believe, in 7 days. 102 million PlayStation or PSN active users. That's only down 2%, so that is not bad. I'll start first with our guest, Justin. Are you surprised by Sony being down in the numbers, but more so in the software sales? They're down 18%.
I knew I was going to forget to unmute my mic
earlier
today. I'm actually surprised how much Xbox's Game Pass numbers are up when you compare them to Sony's online numbers going down, because there hasn't been a lot for first party on.
No. Microsoft's gains are a conundrum for sure.
So imagine what's going to happen next year when games start popping off. It's going to be crazy. And how is Sony going to answer or keep up with that at all? They got God of War coming out. That's great for the holiday. You got spring coming. You have summer break. You got all that. I don't think PlayStation has an answer for their online services right now, and they've said that a lot, and they've shown it kind of in how they deal with regulators in Europe. So I think it's really concerning for Sony, especially since PlayStation supporting Sony. Sony's not supporting PlayStation.
That's correct. Yeah.
So Xbox has a bad couple years. Microsoft still has its back. Sony's not that deep for PlayStation. They just don't have that long.
Yeah, I mean, listen, again, these numbers aren't putting Sony out of business for sure. Like I said, they're down a few percentages in a couple of the categories. The one for me that most jumps off the page is the 18% being down in software. Like I said, they had 3 big games released this year, and Microsoft hasn't. And being down 18%, that's damn near 20% of your software sales. Being down that much is very shocking to me.
Well, I mean, I'm old enough to remember when Sega went out of business. It isn't just one thing; it's a death by 1,000 cuts.
Yep,
it's not going to happen all at once. Slowly by slowly, a kingdom's going to crumble until it's gone.
Yeah, I mean, Sony isn't going to go anywhere. I think that they've been in the business too long to allow something like a defiant Microsoft to put them out of business. I think Sony is going to be here for as long as gaming is going to exist. Now, is Sony going to remain in first place? Well, that's a topic for another show, because the answer is I don't think so. I think at some point they are going to have to bend the knee. I think that they are. Are they going to go to third place? Are Microsoft and Sony going to switch places? And is Nintendo going to stay at 2? I don't know. All I can tell you is that if there's a reason why Sony does these money hat deals. There's a reason why Final Fantasy 16 and oh my god, what's the other game coming out from them?
Forspoken.
Forspoken, which by the way had a new trailer which looked dope.
Fire.
I'm not front. I saw your tweet, Umbra. It looked when she was like surfing on the water. Looked pretty good. Like it's probably the best I've seen that game shown so far. So I wasn't originally interested, and now I got to admit I don't know if I wait for that game for Xbox. I might have to buy that on the PlayStation 5 because it's a big open world game. It's a new IP. Even though Square is kind of shitty, a shitty company, I might have to, maybe even get it. And maybe I don't get it day one, depending on what I'm playing. Maybe I get that when it's on sale. Who knows? But it did
either that or wait 2 years, I guess, right?
Or just wait the 2 years. But I do want to thank. I have a new channel member, which is awesome, and I'm gonna make sure if I say Kwame Kiru. If I'm saying it wrong, I apologize for butchering the name. He has become, or they have become, a channel member, and they also drop a very generous $10 super chat and says, "Happy birthday, Mrs. Boom." That is very, very kind of you. Thank you so much for the generosity, and of course, thank you for the channel support. It is greatly appreciated. Steel Rain.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on this? Again, these numbers, I mean, I don't think this is terrible. Being down 4% in subscribers, not terrible. Being down 2% in PSN active users, not terrible. The thing that I think that Sony probably is disappointed in are the two topics. One of which is it's their PlayStation 5 output. They've only, and I say only, I'm not being facetious. They literally sold 1.1 million per month because this is a quarter. This is second. This is Q2. So it's a total of 3.3 million PlayStation 5 sales, and it falls flat year over year, according to Tom Warren. And I think the biggest talking point here is down nearly 20% in software sales. That is saying something. Is the $70 price point starting to potentially affect their sales, Seal?
Is the $70 price point starting to affect their sales? Boom. I'm going to say something, and I'm going to say something that's probably going to get me a lot of flack, a lot of smoke. And this is something that I've always had, not necessarily fight with, but kind of internalize and have these internal dialogues with myself about it. So what I'm going to start off by saying is what's killing PlayStation is they don't have any games to sustain people to stay within their service, to continue to spend money within their service. They have these games that drop, people buy day one, people buy years later. Whenever they do, they buy, they play, they do not reinvest. They put the console down, they put it away, they are not thinking about it. That is the current problem that PlayStation has, which is why you see these numbers kind of go down. No, is it like a major issue to Sony? Do they need to be pocket watching everybody and making sure that they're getting their just dues? No, not necessarily, but you can also see why that it hurts the overall look to Sony, because they're already, to me at least personally, they're already kind of struggling finding their way into this seemingly this service-facing digital era. So not only are you taking your games from out of the stores, which is another way that a lot of these companies were making some money, because they're not only not making the money for us, but they're also making it from the big stores because they got to cut those deals and everything else. But they no longer got to ship there. They're getting the digital, and so they're taking a little bit of a loss on that, and then while also making a stupid amount of money. And then now, seemingly, especially you see with Sony, you also see with Xbox. Supposedly, you see prices starting to go up in a time where it's a recession. People aren't going to want to invest in something that doesn't already keep their attention enough, right? You are going to have your people who are your hardcore, your dedicated, they're your enthusiasts, who are going to make sure that they have the newest hardware, they got the newest games, they got everything that they need to make sure that their brand and PlayStation is going to stay afloat. Or if that's your secondary console first, whatever the case may be, you're going to make sure that you're just going to support. But at the end of the day, the consumer is still on your Xbox One. They just switched out from a 360. I know a lot of people don't want to realize that or not, but PlayStation 5s aren't just going to magically start selling faster. And again, these numbers may be at a loss at some point in some factors, but PlayStation also said they're profitable on their consoles. This is the first generation where they're seeing more of that money up front than any other generation. They're selling more consoles than they've ever had previously. So everything is moving in the right direction, which is kind of just touching on that side of it's a negative, but they are kind of teetering this fine line to me personally. And I know that Sony has a lot of different things in the works, but if they want to see those software sales jump up, you want to see those active users jump up, because my biggest thing is, again, I thought you had 120 million consoles out there plus, right? Why is there only 102 million active users on those consoles?
That's a great question, brother. That's a great question.
Where is the retention? I know this says, oh, it's down 2%. This is PlayStation in total. If you don't look, the reason I bring this up is because, again, I'll stand on my square and say Xbox and Microsoft has the greatest retention rate in gaming to date. Most users who have an Xbox console also more than likely are starting to either have Game Pass or subscribe into the Xbox ecosystem in some way, shape, or form. But you don't see Microsoft out there trying to put out their Xbox monthly active users, because that would be a number that would definitely blow. I think personally, probably blow. You would really see the difference between where the consumers are kind of using their spending habits, and you're also seeing people getting that word of mouth now. Hey, Game Pass. Oh yeah, man, I tried out. There's some games in there. Go Call of Duties. I got Call of Duty's coming with the Series S this holiday for Christmas.
And still, just to add, they probably don't want to say that either.
Exactly.
Microsoft, like, yeah, well, we're doing great, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And so that CMA can use it. Oh, are you?
Yeah,
I was going to say, you want to play from a position of confidence, not from strength on this one.
Yeah,
exactly. And so I think that's the biggest thing that we're seeing is that when you have a ecosystem that's already having a difficult time, at least from my perspective, that I've noticed over the last 20 years, just keeping people steadily invested without whether it was coach co-op, because the only thing that really, honestly, back in the day that kept me invested in the PlayStation wasn't their single player games. And single player games to me, and again, everybody can take this how you want. I'm not going to say that they're one and done, but you could put 300 hours into a single player game, and I have. But after that, are you going to go play it again, or are you going to go play Call of Duty? Or are you going to go play League of Legends? You're going to go play Overwatch 2. You're going to go play all these other multiplayer games, because we live in a society where that is the front-facing thing that is important. If you're a gamer, especially like myself, who's more multiplayer focused, PvP focused at least, I'm always going to, kind of cater to that or teeter toward that side of things. But to me, I just think it's an issue that's just continuously running off. To me, for PlayStation, is that they just have a difficulty retaining consistent interest for people to stay steadily involved. Personally,
yeah, no, I mean that's a good point. Listen, let's bring in Umbra on this conversation, because you see what's interesting, numbers. We can all have gaming opinions. You can say you like this console more than I do. I can say I like this console more than you. That's fine. Opinions, folks.
Right.
It's okay to have one. But what you can't argue, Umbra, is numbers. And this is where this story goes, Now, like I said earlier, Tom Warren is reporting that they're down 18%, nearly 20% in sales for software. They're down 2% for PSN active users. PlayStation Plus subscribers are down 4%. Okay? The consoles, flat year over year. Well, I have the Microsoft stats that were announced on Monday, and this is what's interesting. Xbox increased by 13% in this quarter. They're up 13% in console sales for the Xbox Series X and S. But here is where this number gets even more interesting, Umbra, and why value is not no more. You can't just push it off to the side and say value is subjective. People are educated when it comes to services. People will go where their money gets them the most. Check this out. According to a story that I pulled from sportsbusinessjournal.com. This is their finance section. It was written by Tobias Seck, and this was put out on the 26th of October. Check this number out. According to the, and I'm reading verbatim from the article. According to the earnings report, the customer base for Xbox paying between $10 and $15 per user per month for Microsoft's video game subscription service, PC Game Pass, increased by 159% year over year. Excuse me? So I'm just saying that these numbers, they're not going to put Sony out of business, Umbra. But I think that you're starting to see Microsoft turn the corner, and maybe, just maybe at some point when the Activision Blizzard deal is done and something like Call of Duty is in Xbox Game Pass, because the turn isn't going to be like a werewolf that's going to go from man to wolf in a matter of a few minutes. This transition of marketplace leader is going to take years for Microsoft to overcome the dominance of Sony. There's no one going to suggest otherwise.
Right.
But these numbers prove that the tide is turning. What are your thoughts?
Well, the old saying is, the old saying was what? Women lie, men lie. Well, I guess in this case,
Numbers don't lie.
Xbox lie, Xbox lie, ponies lie, but numbers don't. So look, the thing of it is you're right. I mean, 159% increase on the PC as far as Game Pass goes. It just goes to show that Microsoft has what they've been doing there on the PC side of things has worked as far as Game Pass goes as well. I have plenty of buddies who are PC master racers, and they, they're actually loving it. They're like, yeah, I'm subscribed to Game Pass there. It makes sense that their long-term, plan for incorporating games into that for PC has helped a lot. I mean, they get games we haven't even got on console.
Yep.
So I can see why it's going that way, and I can see why it's going to continue going that way. And the more that they add in these games, like we just saw for this month that we'll be getting, I mean, just for the early part of the month, we're already getting games that we didn't even think we were getting. Who thought we would have got, some of the games they listed? I don't want to name it off just in case it's one of your topics, but just to point out, though, it's interesting because last quarter, PlayStation dropped 37% year over year. This quarter, now it's 49% year over year.
It's not a trend that you want to be you want to keep increasing the number.
Exactly, not that way at least. And like you pointed out, you said 2%. You guys pointed out Brain is 2% and such. Yeah, they're going to say it that way because you got hundreds of 100 million plus people that's on there that they push together with their PS Plus and PS users rather. But the thing is, they're down 2 million people that dropped off. Now you got a lot of sycophants and such, and people who are diehards who are going to be like, oh, I'm going to join them no matter what. I'll give them my money, even if I'm never going to ever actually use those services. But Boom, I think you're right. I think in the age we're in now, people know what they're getting into when it comes to subscription services. And if they're not getting something that's quality for them, or they're not getting anything that's really worth their money value-wise, they're going to say, hey, there's no need for me using that. Right. And I'm sorry about the background noise.
Listen, that's life, brother. We're not in professional studios, folks. At least not yet.
I need some soundproofing. But I was going to say though, like the thing of it is after the end of the day, Xbox gives you day and date games in the service. PlayStation doesn't. If they did that, I would absolutely be subscribed to them, but they don't. And I think more people are starting to notice that. And seeing what Microsoft is offering, no matter how many people on Twitter will tell you otherwise, you start to see that. And it's one thing I also want to add, like we talk about this drought of AAA games from Microsoft and such on Xbox, but it's been 8 months since Sony has had one. So, but we often ignore that because of Microsoft's, Xbox's drought as well. But at the same time, where we've been having that drought for AAA first party, we have been getting those games or AA games and such like that from third party. And I think Microsoft paying into that as they have been doing has paid dividends for them, and it will continue to. Next year, like you said, Boom, once Call of Duty drops into there and they start bringing that into the servers and ABK games and such like that, I think it's going to really change. It's going to really skyrocket in value at that point. I think we all can agree there. So I'm just looking forward to that. But yeah, these numbers, they, like you said, they don't lie, because I think people at the end of the day, they're going to value things based off what they can get for their money.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, folks, I know that I'm one of the few podcasts that talk about real life. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not all fun and games. I'm a retired guy, so, you know, having to pay more to get less is not cool because I'm limited. Now, I have a great pension. I did 21 years as New York City police officer. Everyone knows that. And I do okay for myself. I'm not complaining one bit. I worked hard for my pension, but the pension, like a lot of people's bank accounts, has limitations. You know, you have to factor in a lot of variables when it comes to finances. And, you know, I understand. I'm not a boob, folks. Microsoft, they're not palling around. They're not filling my bank account monthly. They're not my friend. They're in to make money for their investors. Hell, I'm an investor. I got a stock right here. But the point of the matter is that they know how to treat their customers. And I want to go to Daniel on this. Daniel, again, this is very subjective. This is just an opinion. I don't know if I'm right or I'm wrong, but it seems as people or gamers, the gaming community is starting to get a little sick of Sony's nickel and diming. And they're constantly posting loss after loss. Now, again, these losses are just business. Everyone is down. In fact, the only company that isn't down double digits right now as we speak is Capcom. They're down 9%, and that's it. And I'm not saying that facetiously. Microsoft is down in double digits as well, but Sony isn't as big as a company. Mm-hmm. Do you think these losses, these change in pattern with the market leader, have anything to do with people just really being sick of Sony and their tactics?
I mean, it's certainly a factor, right? I mean, we have to take into account the fact that, I mean, like you said, yes, everyone is down. We're in a recession, but you look at who's down and by how much, and PlayStation is down further than pretty much anybody else. I think they may have at this point crossed 50% in their stock drop. Last I saw it was at like 46%, and based on these earnings, like it's not going back up. So they're having a rough time. You know what I mean? It's not a good thing for them, or honestly for the games industry in general. Like we don't want PlayStation to fail or shut down or anything like that, even though, you know, the people on this podcast would by and large say that they're Xbox people, right? Like we want PlayStation to be successful. We want for, you know, God of War to come out and to be a 10 out of 10 game, right? Like we want to see the industry be successful because we're gamers, right? That's what we do. Even if we do, you know, pick Xbox and be like, this is the year they're going to the Super Bowl, like a bunch of Cowboys fans, you know what I mean? It's because that's just how it works, you know?
I like that dig at Cowboys fans.
I'm down here in Texas.
Don't talk about the Steelers because pew.
Yeah. It's just this thing, right? Where we saw their earnings call last quarter, and we've seen it again now, and it's consistently down in pretty much every single category. I think last time there was one category that was still positive. I don't remember what it was, but it seems like it's negative now, and it's really unfortunate for them, right? I keep hearing, you know, whenever we talk about all the bad things that PlayStation, the poor choices that PlayStation has been doing for the last year and a half or whatever, I constantly see pushback from, you know, sometimes in the chat, more often in like comments or stuff like that, or like DMs where they're like, it's just business. They're just doing what's best for business. But where's the proof of that? We look at the numbers and everything is down. Right? Everything is down. And more so than most other people. I mean, you look at their software sales and it's down 18%. Nintendo is not having this problem. We just heard that like the sales numbers for Splatoon are ridiculous, right? It's something like 1 in every 5 people in Japan owns Splatoon 3, right? Like
Yeah,
It's insane.
Daniel, I want you to. I mean, this could be taken in 1,000 directions, but the one thing I want to talk about specifically is that point. What you just said. Just think about this for a second. In Japan, the best-selling game is running at 720p. You know what I'm saying? It's a shooter that's a first-party design shooter that Nintendo made. Nintendo doesn't have Call of Duty, and yet they are the market leader. They are running the gambit when it comes to these things. And the 1 in 5. Think about the ramifications of that. It's something to be said there, Daniel.
Yeah, and it's especially strange, right? Because these numbers are so bad in so many different areas, and so much worse than their direct competitors. It's lower than it is for Xbox. It's lower than it is for Nintendo. I'm sure it's lower than it is for Steam. They have barely any overhead, so like I'm sure that they're doing fine. And it's so strange because if you looked at this year on paper and just did not look at numbers, you would 100% say this is PlayStation's year, right? Xbox has put out nothing. Nintendo's been doing pretty good. Like they're going to have 2 Pokemon games out by the end of the year. Like they're probably fine, right? Like I know that what is it? You and Kayasante and Everborn have that thing about
whether man, God of War the knees are going right more. There, right there.
I will say though, I don't know where the knees are going, but I tell you right now, I bet Pokemon sells better than both of them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt it, to be honest with you. Pokemon is a monster franchise, and there are 2 coming out just in time for the holidays. What a coinky dink, right?
Yeah, you have people they live and breathe Pokemon. That's a different beast. That's a lifestyle for some people. That's not just a game.
And this one's different too. This one's actually the one them making up for all their promises they made for Arceus.
Yes,
they're actually putting co-op and everything else in there. So. Yeah, it probably will. 9 times out of 10.
Yeah. But I mean, these numbers came out I think this morning, right? Because this is the first I saw them was when I woke up. But we were already planning on sort of talking about a similar topic on the Xbox side. We were already going to talk about how they missed the Game Pass sales goals, right? Is they had ridiculously lofty goals for the year. I think it was like 70-something% growth, right? Mm-hmm. Which I guess kind of makes sense because they were expecting to have Starfield and Redfall and like all these really big games, and then that obviously didn't happen. But even without that, they still grew. What was it? 28%, 20-something%.
Yes, yeah.
Right?
We're gonna get to that topic momentarily, as well as what they intend to do in China. The fact that they have a team that is in China right now, talking to developers and publishers to bring those games potentially exclusively to Xbox. Yeah, we're going to get to those topics as well.
Microsoft has a full campus out there also.
Yes, China. They do. That's right.
And so what I want to know from the people who are saying, all of these choices that PlayStation is making, this is good. This is them making more money. Like it's just business. It's not show friends. It's show business, right? And, if that's the case, how come Xbox, who is not doing any of those things and also didn't launch any first-party games this entire year, is up 28% on their subscription, and PlayStation is down in every single category? That's what I want an answer to.
Well, honestly, this feels like the first year that they really supported PC Game Pass. And most of those people that are on PC Game Pass, I can almost guarantee at least half of them have an Xbox that's attached to. So if you have an Xbox, you're paying $15 a month for Game Pass. You're going to play it on your PC if you have a PC.
Yep.
There's no reason not to. Yeah.
Well, you get, that's the great thing about Ultimate. Again, you get Ultimate, you get everything.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, Josh, let's get your opinion on this, and we're going to move on to the other topics. And I have to catch up on Super Chats. A lot of big ones. And Hargeet Chani's in there. Chani, what's going on, brother? Hopefully you are doing well. Thank you for the generosity. I will thank you personally momentarily. N64 Josh, everyone's had some really killer opinions, but I'm interested to hear yours. Is Sony finally reaping what they have sown?
Ooh, that's a way of putting it. We live in a very strange time. right? Like we got to hear Phil Spencer talk about, like, you know, COVID is no longer an excuse. Like we've been hearing the COVID excuse for quite a while from everybody when it comes to first party and work from home,
True.
all that stuff, right? It's very I mean it's accurate. It is weird that, like, you know, things are changing quite a bit. We've gone from where games were the driving force, where, like, I mean, you go back to the 360 era and Halo was an event, right? And then they showed what was, you know, Bungie showed what was possible with Halo, and then Activision started making Call of Duty an event, and that's not as much the case anymore. I mean, the games still sell. That's not the question, but it's not, you're not seeing the news show up at Best Buy to record people in line anymore for these parties. I used to do live shows at GameStop.
Dude, I used to be in those lines with my brother. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just it's a different time, and with Xbox really changing the narrative with Game Pass, right? And giving gamers the really the Netflix version of gaming. Sony's kind of come in with more of the Amazon Prime way of looking at it, right? Where you get some free stuff, but you can still buy, or you may have to buy the day one purchase. They're not going to be there right away, and they're having to find, they're testing they're testing how strong their brand is, right? And I think we may be starting to see a few kinks in the armor, and that's okay, because as that armor potentially fails or that foundation starts to fall, they have to innovate, right?
Yeah,
they've been here with the PS3. You know, and I'm not saying that the PS5 is as bad as the PS3. It's not. That's not my point. But we've watched history repeat itself. We watched Sony falter with the PS3 while Xbox flourished with the 360. We watched Sony flourish with the PS4 while Xbox stumbled with the Xbox One. Mm-hmm. And now we're kind of seeing both of them relatively healthy, kind of duking it out. And then you've also got this triple threat match with, like, Nintendo kind of running around like this little irritating wrestler that really couldn't probably body slam anybody, but is gonna just be like the fly that's annoying everyone, right? And so,
hey, that midget's juicing.
So, and so this is what I mean. This is what I get excited to see, honestly, because it means that, what are they going to do to keep the brand loyalty going? What are they going to do to keep the consumer opening their wallet to pay for PlayStation games? The brand can only last so long before they have to innovate and start upping the value proposition. And that's what Xbox has shown us with Game Pass.
Yep.
And Sony is trying to follow suit, and Nintendo is just playing to the beat of their own drum, going, we're just going to give you our old ass games and you're still going to pay $80 a year for it. So, you know, that and their numbers are ridiculous too. So, I mean, we're coming out of such a high point with the economy and everything else. It's not all that surprising to see that numbers are starting to go to, I mean, if you look at the real world, you look at our stock market and all that kind of stuff, like, it's not all that surprising. People are having to tighten the belts a little bit. And but I think going into this holiday season, I think things are going to still just be great for all three companies. But come next year, I mean, if we do hit a recession and things like that, entertainment's going to be one of the first to go. And like Boom, you've always talked about how, like, Game Pass is one of, if not the best ways to spend your money each month to be able to get plenty of entertainment. And so that will probably end up being a winning strategy for Xbox, pending we hit a recession, and Sony may be left trying to figure some things out, which is good for us as gamers. The gamers always win at that point.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know. I mean, Sony created the answer, or their answer to Game Pass, because they had to have an answer, right? Are they gonna eventually have an answer for day and date? We don't know. But I can say that this has been a great way to segue into the next topic, and we'll be talking about some Microsoft numbers in the story that I pulled from VGC, which of course is videogameschronicles.com. But before I do that, let me catch up on a few of the super chats. Jordan TJ, generous friend of the program, drops a $2 super chat and says, "When is State of Decay 3 coming?" That's a good question, but all I know is that the makers of Gears of War and the Coalition are helping them with Unreal Engine 5, and I have a strong suspicion that game is going to slap when it finally releases, and I hope that they've heard my complaints, and as great as the online multiplayer survival shenanigans is, I want a true-to-life single-player campaign as well. Hopefully they do bring that to the table. Scott Gamer Dude, generous friend of the program, who's a new member of the channel. So thank you so much for that, Scott. He drops a $5 super chat and says, "Hello, Boom. Glad to be here again. If not invested in PlayStation ecosystem, is their service worth it? Also, will Xbox controller work on the PSP5? I honestly don't know about that. And as a service, I only upgraded to the highest tier for PlayStation because they offered what I had left on my subscription for $33. And I wanted Stray, and Stray was $30. So I figured, well, instead of buying Stray for $30, which is a great game, I'm almost finished with it. I'll just upgrade. So my subscription for PlayStation Premium or PlayStation Plus Premium ends in February. Unless they make some major changes, I will not be spending $120 per year for that service. That's just. I mean, unfortunately, I'm going to have a service because of cloud saves that they charge you for, which is egregious in every stretch of the truth, but it is what it is. Hargeet Chani doesn't drop just one super chat. He drops two. And the first one of $5 says this: Sony actually having to earn the business is a good thing for consumers. Competition is working. Indeed it is. And of course, he drops a very generous $20 bomb and says Sony software sales being down is indicative of the environment they have created. The mindshare created by PlayStation 5 is that AAA bangers are the only games. Lots of those got delayed. Xbox, Nintendo promote indies as well as AAA. Indeed, indies were important to the PlayStation during the PS4 days, and then they took a dump on the indie community, and now they're reaping what they have sown. Elemental PO, who's one of the winners from yesterday, who's been a channel member for 6 months, drops a $2 super chat and says, "Love the saucy talk," as Gaz on Game On Daily would say. And indeed, we love Gaz and those guys over there. But I do want to talk about numbers for Xbox. Obviously, they did not hit their number that was made internally for growth when it came to Xbox Game Pass. Now, Xbox Game Pass is a big part of the conversation simply because, number one, it has finally been confirmed by Satya Nadella and Phil Spencer himself that, yes, they are making money. It is profitable. It is not a money pit. It is not an endless hole where Microsoft is just throwing millions of dollars and getting nothing for it in the back. But how much are they down? Well, according to the report from videogameschronicles.com, and of course, this was written, I'll make sure I get it right. It was Chris Scullion who wrote this report, and I know that Steel Rain has said that name on Living Split Screen several times. How bad were they down? Well, according to the article, this is the second time that Game Pass growth rate has failed to reach internal targets. In 2021 fiscal year, the target was 47.79% growth, and the final result was 37.48. Well, the target in the previous year was met where they originally had 71% growth, and they wind up hitting 85.75%. And Phil Spencer actually commented on this during the WSJ Tech Live event. Of course, that's the Wall Street Journal Tech Live event that he was a guest at. He said this, folks: I've seen growth slow down mainly because at some point you've reached everyone on console that wants to subscribe. That is interesting, and you kind of wonder, well, what do they do next? We know 2023 is going to be big, but you know what happens to be releasing this year, Steel Rain? Well, that Riot Games deal is coming this fall. Now, listen, I'm not a MOBA guy, right? I don't play MOBAs. It's not my thing. But millions upon millions upon millions of people play those types of games. And one of the things that come along with these types of MOBAs is DLC. You know, obviously DLC rules the roost. It's where most of these companies make their most money. And something like Riot Games makes millions of dollars on this DLC. But what's interesting is their characters are expensive. And there's one particular game. What's their most popular game, Steel?
You're talking about it was right there too. Goodness, Valorant.
Yes, Valorant is one of their most popular games for sure. If you were a new player,
or League of Legends too is another one.
League of Legends is another one. Thank you so much for that. League of Legends is one of the bigger ones for sure.
Yes.
If you're a new player, Steel, to League of Legends, and you wanted to come in to get every character, if that's what you wanted to do, would cost you $800+, right? Which is ridiculous.
Right.
But when this Riot Games deal hits Game Pass for PC, all of those characters on every one of those games are available to the player day and date. Meaning that when you pop this game on your PC, every hero is available to you. I think this is what Phil Spencer is talking about. Now, granted, when Microsoft finally gets around to releasing the bangers, right? 2023 is going to be a perfect example of that. You're going to see Game Pass skyrocket. I don't think that they fall short next year. I would even dare say that they go well beyond what they expected, because like it was said earlier, they had originally planned for 3 AAA bombs to release this year, and all 3 of those bombs were delayed. So that, of course, what's hurting them in the back end.
Right.
What are your takeaways from this? Microsoft being down, but also being up, not releasing the bangers. They're up 28%, dude. Still, gain is gain, even though they have fallen short.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, again, it kind of ties into stuff with Sony earlier. I mean, everybody knows, we've talked about it 6 ways from Sunday, that Xbox hasn't released any first-party games this year, right? None that we can really speak to. With that being said, what they have done is cut second and third party deals to make sure that people who are invested in the Game Pass consistently have something to either invest their time into, or at least try to see if they're interested in. And that kind of speaks for itself as far as value goes, or whether it's kind of speaks for its own worth. The unique thing that Microsoft has done, and again, like you had mentioned, Boom, on the backside of not having new IP, or even if it's existing IP, having first-party IP that can get that word of mouth really started, because that's the point of it. We've come to a crossroads to where first party games may not necessarily be the end all to be all, but first party games are the conversation pieces, right? Spider-Man, God of War, Ratchet and Clank, Horizon, those are all conversation pieces, but they're not Call of Duty, they're not Fortnite, they're not Apex, they're not these other games that do keep people consistently involved in these ecosystems. So you're kind of seeing that that pull there, right? And the reason, and again, that's why I kind of tied it in earlier, is Xbox has done really well with keeping people who are involved within the Xbox ecosystem, keeping them fed, or giving them a reason to stay consistently invested, like myself. And again, I know people say, oh, you got plenty of people doing the dollar deal. Everybody's getting their points from Game Pass. And it's like, dude, I still pay $14.99 a month for Game Pass, and I don't even squint an eye at it. I don't think about it. I don't look at it. Because every month I play so many different games, whether I end up playing something out of Game Pass or not that month, it's become to a point to where I don't, if I'm not going to think about Disney and Netflix, and I've made this point plenty of times, but if I'm not going to think about my other services that way, or try to make it seem like it's a major thing, I'm going to cut my TV before I cut my gaming, right? Yeah. Netflix will go before my subscription goes, whether you're on the PlayStation side or on the Xbox side of things. But Xbox has become very dominant, and they've become very dominant in this digital era, right? Because what Microsoft has seemingly done is, again, I always make this point, I stand on this hill, they seemingly, for the first time in the last 20 years, have been on the pulse of what the community is looking for, what the gamers are trying to kind of feel out, because you're seeing more and more where people aren't wanting to try games. $70 is a big ask. $40, it can be a big ask. But if I can give these games to you, like Umbra brought up, if I can give that to you in a Game Pass where you could try it out, whether you like it or not, that's irrelevant. I gave you something that you didn't have before, and you're more than willing to try it because it's there. And that's what Xbox is doing. They've hit that nail on the head, and more people are talking about it. More and more people are having a conversation about it. That's why everybody's not talking about Xbox and the games anymore. They're talking about whether Game Pass is profitable, because they still seemingly don't understand how somebody who is the little brother of the industry has been able to seemingly change some of the mindset and possibly do something different, especially going further into this digital era. So,
you know, it's funny you said all that, Steele. I just want to point out that the way black folks, the way we say ask, sounds very similar. So you said it's a big ask, and you said I'm like, what do you say? Is this an afternoon show? What are we talking about right here?
This is not After ask. Dark, like, mind you. Okay?
God.
Yeah.
That's a fact. Sure. That's a fact, though.
I just want to clarify. That's all.
Oh man, Justin, let's get your opinion on this. Listen, Microsoft fell short again, second year in a row. There are some chinks to the armor. Phil Spencer recently got out there and said, in that interview he did with the sisters, the YouTube interview, I believe the channel is called Two Brains. It was very, very well done. They had a lot of fun with Phil. Phil looked like he was a little nervous up front, and then he did what Phil does. He calms down, he relaxes, he laughs, he jokes. But he recognized that they have fallen short of first party. But again, you have to wonder if that's, they're down, sure, but they're still making gains. They fell short of their internal calculations. They put high bars for themselves, for their investors. They fell short, but they still walked away with gains when Sony did not. And that is the real question when you consider, and I love what Daniel said earlier, on paper, without looking at the numbers, this is another 2018 for PlayStation, because in 2018 they had Spider-Man, they had God of War, they had a bunch of games. I believe Detroit Become Human was a part of that. They had a lot of incredible games that dominated the marketplace, and of course the conversation. They're still making gains. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, I think you're talking about console saturation in the marketplace, and I think a lot of people forget that Xbox is Microsoft. And Microsoft made its money by being everywhere. They're not just looking at consoles. They're going to move into mobile. They're going to move everywhere else. So, I mean, only at Microsoft, 37% and 85.75. Only there could that be considered a failure. That's not those aren't bad numbers. Nowhere else is that considered a failure except their own internal numbers. So they're not failing, and they only have room to grow because they are boosting up that mobile market. Look at King. You're looking at almost nearly 100 million active monthly users on King mobile games. You fold in Microsoft Game Pass into that, be able to game on mobile. You're going to get crazy numbers. So to see 80%, 100% growth in the next couple of years, that really is not out of the realm of possibility at all. Especially you get smart devices connected into this, TVs, anything like that. That growth is going to be just compounded.
Yeah, when you can't right now we can't account or even equate to what being able to play an Xbox without an Xbox is going to do for Game Pass. Like we can sit here, we can talk about it, we can have a conversation and discuss whether or not it's going to be a plus or a negative. But when you right now, in order to play on a PlayStation or an Xbox, you need a console, right? Well, Microsoft has done things where that they have removed the console conversation. You want to play on your phone, you play on your phone. You want to play on your tablet or your pewter, you go ahead and do that as well. And later on, and we know that the Samsung 2022 TVs have the app built right onto the dashboard. So when you turn on your TV, there's the app for you to start playing. And from what I've heard from people like Paris Lilly of the of Gamertag Radio, we've heard from Danny Benya, obviously the lead voiceover at Gamertag Radio. They said it plays incredible. Like they didn't even realize they were not playing on an Xbox. That's saying something. So when you can do that, and will Sony eventually get there? I would imagine so. Now, how far they're behind, I don't know because I'm not a stock member for Sony, but I can tell you they're nowhere near the investments that Microsoft has made. It's going to be an interesting conversation moving forward. Let's bring in N64 Josh in this conversation. Okay, Josh, they're down, but they're not out. And they've done this without the bangers, as the kids say. Thoughts?
Oh, watch out. Next year is going to be wild. It is going to be wild. And if the numbers at the end of next year, especially if we don't see major plays from Sony and the deal finishes up, these numbers are going to be ridiculous next year. And again, I mean, just like we talked about in the last segment, like the current state of the world, you know, of course people are tightening those belts. So like when Starfield hits and whatever else is up their sleeve, if Halo finally becomes worth playing, I hate saying those words. I can't believe that sentence just left my mouth, but you know, the future is looking so bright for Xbox fans right now. And that's a fantastic place for all of us. I cannot wait to dive into some of the AAA titles. I don't know about you guys, but like I picked up Call of Duty this last weekend, and jumping into the multiplayer game looks beautiful, does feel a bit clunky, right? And so hopefully, and we've, you know, in our chat, we've seen a few different trailers come out with some different games. Some of this stuff is they're starting to really tap into the power of these machines. Next year could really feel like the real launch, if you will, of the Series X and the Series S, and by seeing what these machines are actually capable of.
Yeah, no, it's again. Remember, we're only a couple years into the new generation, so it's going to take some time for them to get the engines revving, so to speak. Call of Duty in the single player is godlike, though. It's the character models are just not to be believed. I am honestly blown away. And I'm enjoying it. Like I said, I have to say it again, folks. Don't hate me for this. Gotham Knights. Oh, my God. That game is so freaking good. I said something privately to Steele. I'm gonna say it publicly because I'm a transparent person. I know I'm gonna invoke
Say it.
the
Do it.
hate.
Do it.
But I have put I'm playing nothing but Gotham Knights. Folks, get ready for this. I would dare say, and I think Steele agrees with me, that Gotham Knights even outdoes Spider-Man 2018.
Oh,
yeah, it's the best. It's the best superhero game to date.
I know I'm gonna lose subs for this.
Wait. Did he say to date?
To date, yeah.
To
Period.
date.
Whoa,
Nobody can argue
date.
that with me. Nobody can argue that with me. If you're gonna bring up Arkham in the conversation, go back and play Arkham and see how simple of a game it is compared to the game that you're playing right now with Gotham Knights. It's not the same. The problem is people wanted a simple game. This game is not simple, and it has so many more mechanics in it. Again, that's a whole different podcast, whole different conversation to have. But I think to date, there is the only reason I feel like, and again, I've played Spider-Man 2018. I just got done playing it recently. Even with Miles Morales tacked on or not, and I haven't played Miles Morales, but the world building and everything is pretty much on par with each other. But as far as delivering you an experience from start to finish that is gripping for people that like that style of game, I thought it was A1. I mean, honestly, I think it's.
Where do you stand on that, Boom? Now he said to date.
Yeah,
I would agree with him. I think it's my favorite superhero game in a very, very long time, and I would even put it up against Rocksteady. Like I really would. Like I think that those Arkham games are phenomenal, but this game does so much. You know, again, I don't want to go off topic here and make this into Gotham Knights, but they are. The hate that came with this game for its 30 frames per second, people lost sight of how they forwarded the superhero genre with the things that you can do. This is a full-on RPG. This is not your dad's Arkham, where you have a few things you can do. What you can do in this game in regards to your own personal character. First of all, you can switch on the fly of either of the Bat family, which is awesome. And what's great is that as you advance with said character, like I like the Red Hood. He's violent. He's brutal. He doesn't take any nonsense.
He is very brutal.
But I also like Batgirl. I like Nightwing and I like Robin. But what's great is that as you play with one, these other characters don't get left behind, because when you come back, all the points you got, your upgrade points, move over.
I like.
So you just
up.
It is so it takes the genre and moves it 5 steps forward from anyone before it. That's what I'll say.
Let me ask you too. Now, you don't think that maybe it's just recency bias?
No,
might be playing into this.
No,
because, look, I'm playing it too, and I'm loving it. I gotta say, I'm really. Let me take that back. I'm liking it a lot. I will say that the lack of 60 frames has at times.
That's the worst thing.
Yeah, that's the worst thing about it. And I had it on PC, but my PC was not good enough for this this mess, because they did not optimize this thing well, and my computer can't handle it. So, so I have to use my Microsoft rewards points that I got on Xbox. Yeah, but I will say it is a fun game. I agree with Red Hood being real brutal. Boom! I pulled some moves off the other day. I'm like, that guy's dead. Ain't no way. Yeah. You know, I bet, man, they showed the little puns where he's beating somebody. Now talk. I'm like, nah, that guy, he's not even asking questions. He's just dead. But I will say I do enjoy the combat. I will give them credit there. And it's not as bad looking as people kind of let on at first either.
It's a different, like, again, like you keep comparing it to Arkham Knight, and it's like that's a different art style. Like you can tell that Rocksteady was going for a more realistic Batman,
cinematic look.
It was like a move. It was a movie. I'm not to take away anything from the Arkham series. Arkham Knight's the best game in the Arkham series, hands down. Nobody can tell me different. Arkham Knight and Spider-Man are right there, neck and neck for me, but Gotham Knights only inches it out because it took that formula. Not only are you making it, you made it to where it's more than me just pressing X or parry or and just using my simple gadgets. It's okay, there's a momentum system. There's if I tap the button in a certain rhythm, I get more momentum. You got these other abilities that it helps my teammates if I got somebody with me. If I do these things, that adds elemental resistances. So now you have like this not necessarily Borderlands, but like this Destiny-esque, Division-esque system that are kind of in place. And then with the leveling system. And I think it's more so for me, this is the love letter to more so for the co-op experience that everybody's been asking for out of this game, out of this genre of games, right? And I just think that WB Montreal, they implemented so many things in this game that are versatile, diverse, or are different for this ilk. That's why I look at it that way. Not to say that those games aren't good or whatever the case, but it's just this one is doing so many things differently. It grips me in a different way and wants me to constantly kind of reinvest my time and maybe do things a little differently. So,
yeah, I mean, listen, I apologize for taking us off course.
Yeah, that's facts.
But it's listen, that's the great thing about these shows. They're conversations. Greg Miller is notorious for saying that on his shows, and of course, I love Greg Miller, so I don't mind having one of these fugazis thrown in here. But
yeah,
Daniel, let's get your opinion about this. You made mention something earlier that I think you're going to have to reiterate. Microsoft did not hit their internal numbers. I'm sure that has to do with bonuses and things of that nature. And it's business, folks. It's not show friends, it's show business. It's the truth. But the fact that they have growth and they missed their mark, not by much, where Sony is struggling in this department. I think the main takeaway here is not having any major first-party games to put out there as your headliner for said series. I mean, said service. What are your thoughts?
So my first thought is that I'm going to have to text Pong Soul, maybe Miss Boomstick, have a check your places for pods, because I don't know what's going on. but no, it's yeah. So yeah, they didn't hit their internal growth record, right? Like they wanted to hit 70-something%, and that's extremely lofty. I feel like even in the best of times, even if we weren't going through inflation, and if those games, Starfield and Redfall had come out that year or this year, I feel like 70-something% would have still been a hard target to hit, which makes sense. I mean, you don't set your goals to be like, I'm going to get out of bed today. You know what I mean? So like, it's going to be something that's tough to achieve, that you have to strive for. But the fact that I mean, we just looked at the PlayStation ones, right? And it's like, yes, they didn't hit what they were shooting for, but they're still up, right? Like 28% is nothing to sneeze at, right? If my subscriber count jumped up 28%, I'd be thrilled, right? Like,
hey, I'd be at a whole 3.
Hey, I'll go subscribe after this. But it's
both
like,
my wife.
It's this thing where it's like, we're just talking about two very different conversations, where it's like PlayStation is actively losing things, right? Their software sales are down, despite the fact that they've put out really good games this year and are about to put out hopefully their best game this year. And then this is the first year that they've started really pushing for publishing on PC. So if anything, software sales should be up dramatically. They're hitting a whole new market, and yet they're down. And it's like, and then you look at their subscriber thing, and it's like, you just launched this service and it's already down. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's concerning to me. Not like massively concerning, but like something is not going right over in that camp. I look at what's happening at Microsoft, and it's like, yes, they're not doing as well as they wanted to do, which means that, probably some of their plans are going to have to, slow down a little bit, because there's probably some things where they're like, once we hit this percentage on Game Pass, we want to do X, right?
Right.
Like, once we hit 100 million, we want to, I don't know, up the price or something, right? And so that's probably going to slow down some internal plans that they have there. But as long as Phil can go to Satya and the board and be like, look, hey, we didn't, almost double subscriber count like we said we were going to, but we're still making progress. And, you can look to the future and say like, and all of the reasons why we thought that this year was going to be a huge success still apply for next year, right? And by then we'll own Call of Duty, and by then we'll have this and that, right? Like, you can look to the future and be like, these numbers are only going to continue to increase and be bigger and bigger and bigger, to the point where even though I mean, like I said, right? Like, even though the entire industry is down right now to varying degrees, Game Pass is still improving, right? Like, there's that guy knows. There's like the fact he threw me off. The like, we got the fact that the numbers are up, and that we also got the confirmation that we all already knew, being sane people, that Game Pass does in fact make money, is like, man, it's wild. There's a couple podcasts that I'm very interested in listening to this week from PlayStation, fanatics, who I really want to see how they try and cover this up of like, yes, we're down and Game Pass is making money. Like I said, they haven't been making for a year and a half now, but like, I'm excited. This is great times.
No, I mean, it's look, at the end of the day, what's going to wind up happening with Sony is they're going to find themselves potentially in a position where the fans are going to be crying out for better value. Right now, a perfect example, and again, I don't want to, reiterate it, but I have to, because we're talking numbers ups and downs for both Sony and Microsoft when it comes to their gaming divisions. Microsoft is doing everything in their power to be front-facing and consumer-friendly, whereas Sony is not. Sony is nickeling and diming you for everything. I mean, they charge you $10 for an upgrade fee to play your game on, not to play your game on PlayStation 5, but if you want the upgraded goodness of what you bought a console for, like, for instance, the DualSense support, you have to pay for that. That's not given to you. Microsoft gives you that for the price of, hey, you bought the console, we're going to give you the upgrade for free. All right? They charge a cross-play tax for publishers and developers. Their streaming, their service that's comparable. It is comparable to Xbox Game Pass. Doesn't offer day and date, and it's $3 more than Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. It's shocking.
I really think that Game Pass is forcing Sony to play a game they don't want to play.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. That's a great point, Justin. I think you're definitely onto something.
Yeah, you have one company that's moving ahead with something that they want to do, that they're pushing with, and you have another dragging their feet. Which service is going to come out better? And it shows in the product.
Listen, at the end of the day, Sony is doing anti-consumer practices, and Microsoft is doing consumer-facing practices. And you know what? That's not a console war dig. Pete in the chat says, asking, how is it nickel and diming when profits are down? Well, if they weren't nickel and diming you, the profits would be down further. But you can't argue that Sony isn't
comes across.
I mean, come on. The list for what Sony does versus what Microsoft does isn't a console war dig. It's an absolute fact. Just do the work.
I mean, we're just going to ignore them raising the prices. We're just going to ignore that then, huh?
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, you can defend Sony all you want, Pete, and I appreciate you being here, brother. But at the end of the day, we cannot argue that one company is doing things for consumers, whereas the other one, their console, their marketplace dominance, it proves to their arrogance. Sony wasn't afraid to raise the console prices $50 in what was considered something that's never been done in gaming. Console prices have never increased ever in the history of gaming 2 years into its run. At the 2-year mark, they're dropping $50. And they weren't afraid to raise it. You know why? Because they're the market leader. Yeah. And their arrogance is at the forefront of everything that they do. Steele, you want to add to that?
No, I was going to say, I mean, the number 7 in brand recognition, guys. I mean, like, it's not going to change. They're going to have that for a while, and they're going to try to hold on to that for dear life. The part of the problem is that they can't survive in number 3 the same way that Microsoft has. That's the problem.
Also, the $70 advent. The advent is $70 games. That's not, Sony didn't start it, but they are the main person, the main company rather, who pushed it.
Double down.
Most people adapted because of them.
Yeah.
And I do want to point out that I think this year is the biggest proof positive of Game Pass maybe that we will ever see, right? This is a year where they put out 0 first-party games. And what's the number one thing that we're still hearing is the Game Pass numbers are continuing to go up. I'm hearing more and more people talking positively about Game Pass. People who are on all kinds of podcasts that I listen to are constantly talking about, and I played this on Game Pass, and I played this on Game Pass in a year where they had nothing. This is like this is their weakest year in terms of first party that Game Pass and Xbox will hopefully ever have, right?
Yeah.
And it's this thing where it's like, despite that fact, Xbox is still growing. Despite that fact, Game Pass is still the number one thing being turned on, right? It's still on the tip of everyone's tongue, despite that. Like, when was the last time that you heard somebody genuinely talk about PS Plus? And that just launched. Like, when was the last time? It was when Stray came out, right?
Stray was about the only time. That's when I used it.
And
I was gifted. I was gifted that sub, by the way.
Since that came out, the only thing I've heard about PlayStation Plus is people being upset that the premium tier isn't getting enough content, right? Like, that's the only other conversation that I have heard surrounding this entire thing. Meanwhile, on Xbox, over in the Game Pass department, despite the fact that this should be their weakest year, this should be a year where, if you looked at it on paper, if you saw what Xbox has been doing, and you would assume that they would be having the same problems that PlayStation would be having, if not worse, right? And it's this thing where, like, despite that, I go on all these podcasts and they're like, yeah, man, I've been playing Plague Tale. It's amazing. I can't wait for Somerville. I played this and that and the other thing. And, like, all of these games, even older games, right? People, like, I had a friend who went back and played Bugsnax because it got added to Game Pass. And he was like, and I was like, was it good? And he was like, it was exactly what I expected. And I said, what does that mean? He said, I don't know. And it's like, you know what I mean?
Listen, that's Game of the Year quality. I Bugsnax. Supposed to be spade here, folks.
We're just talking about Bugsnax.
Listen, ladies and gentlemen, it is the 2-hour mark, and unfortunately, due to the numbers thing, and of course, potentially my own fault for using Gotham Knights as a platform when they had no platform here, we didn't get to the Xbox with the team in China. That I'm going to pull the story. I'm going to change the thumbnail to something else because that story is a 35-minute plus conversation that we just don't have the time to have. Obviously, it's Mrs. Boom's birthday, so I want to get back to spending time with her. I do apologize for that. That was the lead topic. Like I said, I'm gonna change the thumbnail and the header for the show. I do want to just say thank you to Scott Gamer Dude, who has become a channel member. That is awesome of you, brother. Definitely appreciate that. We also have a couple of super chats came in from a good friend of the program, Highlander 001, drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, happy birthday, Mrs. Boomstick. Thank you for that. I cannot wait to see the sales after this holiday and see what console does best. So Game Pass grew and PlayStation Plus did not. Yet that is a fact. And I just saw one of the Black Friday ads. I believe it was for Target. They have for the Black Friday holiday block that this Xbox Series S is going to be $239. So it did drop below $250. I thought it was $250 was going to be the number. I didn't potentially think that they could get it lower. They have it for $239, and I believe it does come with a game. And if I recall, I know that Microsoft is running something with Target right now that if you go out and you buy an Xbox Series S, you get the next gen version of Modern Warfare 2 for free. So it's technically like you're paying $230 for that Series S because you're getting a Call of Duty for free, which is bonkers. We also had another super chat come in from Raiden Blade, another generous friend of the program. He drops a £5 super chat and says, the reason why PlayStation's profitable is because its chipset is cheaper and the Series S console is full on next gen only 40%. Sony is also profitable because of price. I mean, their price did go up $50. I don't know how that's going to affect their bottom line, but $50 more is $50 more. And if you times that by a couple of million consoles, well, just do the math. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank all the super chats that came in today. Obviously, they help power the channel with the giveaways. Raiden Blade drops an additional £2 super chat and says, happy next new year from Mrs. Boomstick. Thank you very much for that. That's very kind of you. But listen, again, don't forget this Friday we're going to be doing the Mrs. Boom's birthday bash, $300 worth of giveaways, 6 $50 gift cards, are going to be doled out. The first 3 are going to be for channel members. The next 3 are going to be for anyone that is in the chat. And of course, that could be a channel member as well. But let's get to the outros. And we'll start first with our special guest, Justin, saying, dude, you did great. You had great points. Great way you spoke with confidence. Exactly what I expected. Please tell everyone what you got going on. Where could people reach out to you and potentially strike up a conversation on social media?
Definitely. I'm Justin Sane here on YouTube and Justin Sane 85 on Twitter. Mainly my channel here on YouTube, I'm going to be doing 5-minute videos trying to make myself smarter, and hopefully people can come along for the ride. I'll be releasing a video on the CMA this Friday. And my wife made me aware that my French Bulldog was snoring through part of the video, so I apologize for that.
I saw somebody saying that. Somebody in the chat was saying it. Yeah, I didn't know what that was either, but yeah.
I am so sorry for that, guys.
No, I mean, listen, this such is life. Again, when I have a professional studio and I can fly you guys in, once I hit it big time, then we'll have a professional studio and we'll have actually people to help with that. But no, you did great, brother. Definitely appreciate you being here, and I hope that you had as much fun as I did. But thank you again for being here, Justin. Definitely appreciate that. Steel Rain, sell your brand,
sir.
brother. Talk about living split screen. You guys are 2 shakes of a stick away from the magical 1K, and I want to see you get there because, god damn it, you guys put on a good show. And hell, that show is usually 4 hours. Usually helps me when I'm cleaning because I could literally do the whole house and have something to listen to. Talk about it, brother. Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, with your other brother, Pong Soul.
Yeah, man. Again, Boom, thank you for having me here right in the Xbox Factor Kingdom. But yeah, you can find me, Steel Rain, Steel Rain, the T is a 7. Everywhere that has a search bar, starting with. I've tried it. I've had so many different people of my relatives try it, and it's guaranteed to work. But like Boom spoke to, I am co-host of a non-console centric platform known as Living Split Screen, where we would just talk about everything that's going on with the gaming industry and also add our own little personal flair to it. We come from an RTS perspective. For those who aren't familiar, that's real-time strategy, pulling yourself out of the world, looking the darker crevices of the map, pulling those resources together, and overall just having the conversations and starting that foundation of building blocks for building up our own community and potentially reaching those 3 billion gamers that Phil wants to reach. And like Boom also mentioned, yeah, we are on that road to 1K. Again, if we get to 1K by the end of the year, I will play Callisto Protocol live on stream for you guys. And the only reason that's a big deal is because I don't play those types of games. Dead Space, I'm already kind of iffy because I just played the OG Dead Space on PC last year for the first time. And now seeing all these changes happening with this remake has me kind of shaking in my boots a bit. I ain't gonna lie to you. But
don't tell us you was over there screaming to yourself. Like,
nah. I wasn't screaming to myself, but there was some moments where I was just like, all right, I think I'm gonna turn this off today. But no. But yeah, thank you again, Boo, for having us here. Umbra, Daniel, just to say, look, it was great having you here, man. You did awesome on your first time. And you guys have a fantastic rest of your day and stay safe out there.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, brother, and definitely appreciate you being here and, of course, bringing your incredible talent that we see on display each and every Saturday morning. And N64 Josh, Mr. TikTok himself, Mr. Mario Kart. Sell your brand, brother. You got a lot going on. Obviously, not only do you do TikTok, not only do you do YouTube, you got a lot of shows, one of which is dedicated to Halo, but you're also putting something out there to the ether that I want you to sell your brand on, brother. Talk about if anyone is interested in potentially being coached on how to be a podcaster, because, a lot of people don't know. Talk about it.
Yeah, exactly that. I have, if you guys check the link in any of my bios, I'm N64 Josh everywhere. Twitter, probably the easiest one. You're gonna see what's called a stand store, and within that, it's kind of like Linktree. You can create your own stand store if you want. There is a link at the bottom of that little list of links. But also, yeah, I'm doing coaching because I've been doing this for 13 years, right? And there are I know the frustrations as a creator where it's like you put in a ton of hard work and you're like, where's the payoff here? Right. And I want to help creators get to that payoff sooner. Right. I want to help creators get the views, get the listens, get the community built that they want to do. That's what I'm all about. And having a good time while we do it. There's nothing wrong with having a business with the content that you create. And so the beauty of this stand store, you can set up your own coaching, you can create your own products right in the store. I'm creating how to destroy your partner at Mario Kart, and it's going to include chapters like how to say you're sorry after you hit him with the blue shell, and what not to say after you knock them out of first and destroy them. Right?
Don't say you suck.
That's right. How, proper techniques for sleeping on the couch. We're gonna have some fun with this thing. You know what I mean? Like we're just having fun with it. So check that out. And hit me up. I'm an open book. I want to help people grow. I want to help you maybe take the first steps. Maybe you're worried about getting gear. Don't worry about gear. If you're watching this on a phone, you have enough gear to start creating your own content right now. I am starting a Pokemon podcast. It's Poke News Now. You can find it everywhere. We have the website up, and here's where we're having a little fun. Poke News Now is in its first evolution. Right? So if you guys want to watch as the website evolves, as the brand grows, we're going to be documenting on TikTok, on YouTube, and seeing how quickly we can get something like this off the ground. So I appreciate being here so much. The panel, you guys are all amazing. And please use me as a resource, any and all of you. Thanks again.
But listen, I want to see you grow as well as see you help others grow. Again, podcasting is not a guarantee. It's a lot of work, folks. A lot of us, I've been told, oh, you make it look so easy. This is a full-time job, folks. I stream 5 days a week. There's a lot of research. I work 7 days a week on the channel, and so does Josh. And if you want to be a part of the content creation community, some of the tips that he's given me personally have helped the channel grow. I would definitely say seek out N64 Josh, DM him, drop him a line, ask him a question. Maybe consider subscribing to his channel, and also maybe, reaching out to him and see if he could be the one to coach you up, to give you the proper advice on how to start your own content creation empire. Daniel McG, brother, how is that monster video that you're working on? How is that going? Because I am sitting here because I love your long content. See, like you talk about guys like Dealer to Colt, they do great videos. They're 8-9 minutes. But Daniel McG does 30, 40, 50-minute videos that you might look and say, is this worth my time? And when you walk away, you're educated, brother. Talk about it. Where can people subscribe to your channel and reach out to you on social media?
Yes, sir. So I've been editing that video as we speak. If there's one thing that fans of my channel will know, it's that I overthink everything, and in this case, it has extended to the editing. I've been cutting and reworking it for probably longer than I should have. But yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Daniel J McG or on YouTube at just Daniel McG. We've got, let's see, do you want content that's all about the sauce? I've got a 42-minute video about how Sony's killing PlayStation. You want news? We got that. You want predictions on God of War Ragnarok? Got it, right? I'm trying to cover all the bases. Working on maybe bridging outside of the video game space. Hope that works out, but I'd love to see it come on by.
Good stuff, brother. And again, you're growing your channel. You've seen some record growth this year. I want to see you get that 1K as well. But listen, last and no way least, Infinite Umbra. Please, you got to talk not only about where can people reach out to you and strike up a conversation on social media, but more importantly, talk about where they can find you and Risk It for the Biscuit, Jedi Peter, and of course Doom Cutie on your Friday evening podcast each and every week.
Yeah, thanks, Boom. I want to apologize again, you guys, for getting in a little late.
You were perfect, brother.
I got here, I sat down, I was like, oops. And I was like, let me get back in there, let me get in this. But I just want to thank you guys for holding it down so well. You always, you guys always bring it when you come through. Justin, man, good job on your first outing, man.
Thank you so much, Infinite.
Absolutely, keep it going. And of course, still, you always come through bringing the great energy, brother. You help wake me up. I told you, so, And boom, you spoke on it a minute ago. I don't know how you do this. I know it's a full-time thing, man, but that's tough. And I look at you always bring these topics, and I'm like, I don't know. Him and Miss Boom must be in there just knocking out these topics. I'm like, that is tough right there.
Yeah,
so,
she's the biggest part of the support that allows me to do this. It is technically a full-time job. We wanted to bring quality content, and quality content does take sacrifice. It's something that we are not shy of doing, and I appreciate the comments. Thank you very much.
And I think it shows, so I just want to thank you, of course, for having me on as well, always. And of course, the chat for you all holding us down and coming through and supporting as you always do. I always look at it like, I got the chance to get here and talk and things like that, but I don't want any of you all to feel like your voices aren't validated either, because that's the part of the reason why I always come and chat with you guys in the chats in mine here or elsewhere, is because, without the community, like, what are we doing this for ultimately when we talk about these types of things? That's the way I look at it. But of course, you all can find me on Twitter under Umbra Infinite or Infinite Umbra. You'll find me either way. And of course, on the Xbox Infinite podcast on Fridays at 8:00 Eastern. Please come through and say hi to us.
Yes, well, thank you so much for that. And of course, we do definitely appreciate everyone being here, especially in the chat. Shout out to JD Gamer, generous friend of the program, has been for years. He drops a $5 super chat, says, happy birthday to Mrs. Boomstick. And I just want to say it again, that Sony should step lightly before the CMA unravels their acquisitions. Yeah, their shenanigans is going to come into question. Their behavior, their anti-consumer behavior is going to be put out there on display. And I think that when the real CMA, not the junior varsity phase 1, the actual phase 2 educated individuals, a panel of 5 are going to look at this deal. Phil Spencer and company are going to educate them. They are going to see Sony for who they are. The mask is going to be revealed by Scooby. And they're going to be like, yeah, I would have gotten away if it wasn't for these guys. I think that is eventually going to happen, and the deal will, in fact, pass.
You meddling kids.
I would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for you. But ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you so much for all the birthday wishes from Mrs. Boomstick. We do greatly appreciate it. And don't forget to tune in this Friday for not only the 1,000th episode of Double Barrel Gaming, but it is going to be Mrs. Boom's birthday bash, and we have a lot of people swinging through, one of which I can confirm is King David's going to be dropping by, along with a host of other special guests, which it's going to be it's going to be rolling through. We're going to get people at the beginning, at the middle, and the back end of the show to come in, celebrate the 1,000th episode, and also give their takes on whatever topic we happen to be talking about at the time. Of course, I am Mr. BoomStick XL. This is Double Barrel Gaming, and I'm going to close out today's show with something, folks, that's important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids, and he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated, and also it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. We'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast.